Jackson, wake up! Huh? What's up? Shh! Listen! What the hell is that? Hiking, backpacking, camping. These things are all meant to be fun. Don't let your special outing be ruined by unexpected interruptions. Get the help you need before you set out. Download the CryptID app today. CryptID takes all the guesswork out of trekking the Appalachian Trail or any of the other thousands of sites in our extensive database. Hey, Skeet, do you think we should set up camp here? Hold on, let me check CryptID.
Don't go anywhere near this hollow after dark.
Ooh, glad we checked. Let's go a little farther. In addition to warning mode, CryptID also provides an extensive cryptid database for fast and easy identification. What was that? Let me check CryptID.
72% likelihood of Mothman, not dangerous. 18% likelihood Wendigo, extremely dangerous.
Thanks, CryptID. So before your next excursion into the deep dark woods, grab a copy of CryptID and put your mind at ease. CryptID is available wherever unauthorized apps are sold. CryptID makes no warranties of accuracy. Use of CryptID is entirely at the risk of the end user. Independent studies have shown that reliance on CryptID may lead to shortened lifespan, but who really reads those sorts of studies anyway? Probably the same sorts of people who listen to the extremely fast words flitting past at the end of a commercial. Got a minute or two? We have a way to make it not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes. I'm your host, writer and storyteller Kurt Homan. Next to me is the mad maestro, the master of macabre musical musings, Tim Parker. Together, let us take you on a journey into the dark heart of disturbing. Here at Sinister Minutes, we appreciate all you lovely, not okay people for listening, for supporting us, for sharing Sinister Minutes with everyone you know, for hitting like wherever you listen to us, for subscribing, for visiting us at sinisterminutes.com, for submitting your stories. Tim and I love your stories. Sinister Minutes. It's not okay. Content featured on the Sinister Minutes podcast can get pretty dark, but you know what? We expect our listeners to deal with that. Whatever triggers you, whatever your phobias, we're gonna delve in. What is that crawling up the back of your neck? Don't swat it. Any sudden moves might startle that rattler behind you. Get away, but then the elevator breaks down. Wow, those walls close in fast. Maybe a vacation is in order from all this stress, so fasten your seatbelts. Damn this turbulence. Maybe we'll have to jump from 20,000 feet. Sweating yet? Relax. Out in the open. We just hope you don't suddenly need someplace to hide from the crackling lightning and booming thunder. Great! You made it indoors? Ooh, you didn't touch that doorknob, did you? That thing is crawling. The doc can fix you up. Here she comes. My, what a long needle. That's gonna hurt. Sinister Minutes. Here to make you face all your fears and reassure you that yes, they're all perfectly rational and perfectly not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes Season 3, Episode 9. Today's story, The Wolfman of Helltown, comes to us from guest author Ashley Mangtani, a UK writer whose work explores ecological and social collapse and the roles people inhabit in moments of crisis. Drawing on a master's in environmental science and a background as a civil servant in digital media policy, He crafts stories shaped by inevitability and loss. Check the show notes for more places to find his work, including a link to his website. After today's story, Tim's tearing away the facade of normalcy and showing you what makes him tick, with a piece called Behind the Curtain. Need more music, sinister and otherwise? Visit Tim on Spotify and YouTube under T. Virgil Parker. July's cranking down and taking the intense heat, humidity, biting insects, and maybe the souls of a couple senators with it on its journey down to the 7th level of hell. Tim and I are all about that leveling off, that place for everything and everything in its place approach that lets us sort the world into simple factions like bloody normal and not okay. The Wolfman of Helltown, written by Ashley Mangtani, narrated by Kurt Homan. When the hunger comes up on that old mountain, it gives the Wolfman a name and sends it to him through the black timber of a night in a tongue older than the good Lord ever meant a living thing to be. Whoever's name it is, man, woman, or child, won't ever walk back down out of the high country alive. Tonight, that hunger was up on the mountain again, and it always did get fed in the end. The hikers had their own name for him. The young'uns, the ones who came up out of the Shenandoah hollers of a weekend with new boots and clean packs and went home with a story they would tell the rest of their lives. The Wolfman of Helltown, they called him, after the name folks once had for old Front Royal Town in the valley. His name would go around their fires, one mouth to the next, the way the worst kind of story always does, the kind that gets quieter the darker it gets, and nobody wants to be the one to finish it. How he walked the high trail at night, and no man with a badge had ever so much as caught sight of him. By first light, his writing would turn up etched onto the shelter walls, and he'd be gone. Not a soul within 10 miles to account for it. They told it like a warning, and listened to it like a ghost story, and not one of them knew it was both. The hikers had it about half right, which is the most you can ask of any story. He did walk that high trail. No law had ever caught him, but he was no wolf. And he quit being a man a good while back. He was something the mountain hollowed out, the same as it does to everything up here given enough time. It turned him loose on the ridge that night toward a stranger boy camped off by his lonesome, a campfire going, and no notion that the mountain might ever think to learn his name. This here is the kind of place that takes from people, and anybody raised under the Blue Ridge knows the truth of it, though you won't catch many of them saying it out loud. Hikers go up healthy of a morning on a marked trail with a full water bottle and a charged cell phone in the green cut of Little Devil Stairs, and they take one wrong step off the dirt and the laurel swallows them whole without so much as a snapped twig. The rangers walk their grids a week or two, maps gone soft with rain, the men in orange vests running the dogs while the helicopter beats up and down the canopy. But what comes back is never more than a boot, or a jawbone, or a child's sweater snagged on a briar, waiting on the one that wore it, who ain't ever coming home. The local rag prints more bullshit than this here place ever buried. They say so-and-so got lost and that they're looking, but the people here have a different name for it, and they don't go putting that into print. Folks steer clear of the high country of an evening, and they never did need a sign nailed up along that long black ribbon of a road to tell them what they have known in their bones since they were little more than tadpoles. These mountains are old past any counting. They're hungry, and they never were one bit fond of the people who came climbing up onto them. The Wolfman knew the truth of it better than anyone alive in those hills, for these days the forest does its feeding through him. And every now and then the mountain saw fit to write it down. That was the writing the hikers found and never could rightly explain. It turned up on shelter logs and cabin walls, scribbly lines and a hand gone half to ruin, warnings he could not have told you the first reason for. Isaiah 43:1. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. Most folks reckon the mountain takes people. That ain't so. A grave ain't the worst thing waiting up here. First thing gone is your bearings, then your good sense, then the little things, which way home lies, what day it is, what you came up here for. I have stood in these woods and known somebody was dear to me beyond all reckoning and not been able to call them by their right name. That's a fearful feeling, worse than mourning. At least the dead keep their names. If ever you find yourself up here after dark and something calls to you from off among the trees, don't answer quick. Take a moment. Make certain it knows your name, then make certain you know it too. He did not recollect the writings of most of them. Come morning, there the words would be, and he would stand and read them over, not knowing his own hand. Once in a great while, and only if he was sober, he'd learn something about himself the mountain hadn't meant for him to know. The stranger boy was maybe 17. He had come up the Appalachian Trail out of the south that afternoon, and the Wolfman had kept to the high dark the whole way, letting him come on, for that was how the mountain wanted it. The stranger boy made his camp early at the wayside with his back to a log wall, the young'uns always wanting something solid behind them when the night presses in. He had a little stove hissing blue and a phone he kept raising over his head, turning it this way and that, till at last he caught a bar of signal. He did not know he had company. They never did. The Wolfman stood where the firelight quit and the woods began. He waited. He had learned his patience up here where the seasons move slow and the rocks don't hurry for nothing. And in the ground he received the boy's name. Only thing was, the mountain had overlooked one small matter. It had taken near everything from him, but near ain't the same as all. The young'uns ain't learned to hide themselves none. Got a way of talking from the chest like they're trying to make themselves bigger. He had a boy once, near enough this very age, with that same half-grown way of going, all elbows, forever caught off guard by the new length of his own arms. The name had been right there on the back of his tongue, and then the mountain reached up and took it away from him before he could get it said, same as every time before. That was the cruelest thing it ever did to him, crueler by a long mile than killing ever was. It would hand him his son's face for the space of a breath, the gap in the front teeth, the cowlick that would not lie down, however you wet it and combed it. Then it would snatch it back. His face would go sliding off again, and there'd be nothing left in him but the wanting and the work he was sent to do. For that one breath, he let himself have his son whole, which the mountain did not, as a rule, allow. And there he was, a Saturday in the bottomland before it came between them, his boy 9 years old and standing waist-deep in the Shenandoah with a fishing rod near twice his height, hollering that he had one, he had a big one, and it was nothing but a waterlogged stick dragging the current all the while. And him trying to tell his daddy what he'd caught and not getting 2 words out before he had to stop and start all over again, laughing too hard to finish. The kind of laugh that still reckons the world means well and doesn't know there's teeth in the dark yet. He laughed that self-same way at some fool joke his daddy cracked the morning he left for that hike. The last one he ever got out of him. That was the part the Wolfman could never get around, standing but feet away from somebody else's boy. It wasn't the death that troubled him. It was the life that came before it. How a kid could laugh like that, like the only thing that could go wrong was a fish getting off his line, when all the while his killer was already driving into the holler after saying grace over his god-dang supper. He started toward the fire, through the laurel without a sound, for if he had learned one thing on this green earth, it was the quiet. And as he went, the old grief came up through him in pieces, same as it always did when a soul was waiting at the far end of a knife. His ridges had his boot prints in them already, not from a night hunt. 6 months he had walked every foot of it in the daylight, sun up to sundown and back again till he lost count. His own voice wore down to nothing, from hollerin' one name into the timber till it quit sounding like a name at all and started sounding like a word in a language nobody spoke. His boy wandered off from a church youth hike up near Compton Gap one bright, cold Saturday in October, same as he'd been wandering off after one thing or another his whole life. Only this time, he did not come back by nightfall. Through the black of the trees, the stranger boy's fire threw up an ember glow against the trunks. That low light put him in mind of the lamp Caroline left burning all night that last winter, the two of them in the same bed and a world apart, her plate left untouched on the same spot for 5 days running. The way she'd roll to face the wall when he came in. By January, she couldn't sit across the table from him. For every time she looked up, there was the boy looking back out of his face. And he could not bide a single night in that house, for the boy was in every last room of it. The coat hung on its hook by the door straight through the whole long winter, and not one of them could bring themselves to lay a hand to it. He moved through the trees, the cold working its way up, the mountain already in him. Come the spring thaw, the ground gave their sun back. Tucked under a holler, the searchers had stepped over a dozen times without knowing what was under their boots. What that man had done to Harlan up in them rocks, he kept shut away in a place he did not open. Not for the law, not for his wife, not for his own self in the worst hours of the night. That son of a bitch was still sleeping in his own bed come spring. They put him in a clean white shirt for the cameras and gave him a lawyer that cost more than most folks round here see in a year, and that was the last time anybody up in these parts used the word justice with meaning. So one night that March, he did not so much decide as come undone. 3 days without sleep and a bottle of hooch going warm in the seat behind him, he had no plan in his head at all, no idea of what he might do. The man kept a tidy house on the valley road, porch light burning, a church bulletin still on the kitchen table, for he had been a deacon 30 years and had drove that youth van up the mountain himself the morning their boy wandered off. The Wolfman had his son's fishing knife in his fist, the one with the bone handle he had cleaned 100 bluegill with on the river, his initials still burned in where his daddy helped him. He put it into the deacon's belly before either one of them said a word. It went in and grated on something hard, and the man folded around and made a sound like a screen door opening and closing. The Wolfman drew it back out wet and put it in again, and again, up under the ribs now, into the soft meat this time, warmth running over his own knuckles, more of it than he would have believed a body to hold. The deacon stumbled in the doorway, trying to gather his innards, and still the Wolfman crouched over him and kept on, till the deacon grabbed the blade with both hands, and it laid his palms open to the bone, and the Wolfman did not stop for that either. When it was done, he sat back on his heels, soaked to the elbow, the deacon's eyes fixed on the porch ceiling, and he stayed there a good while. 10 feet. No more. The stranger boy was wrestling with one of them freeze-dried camp suppers, cussing under his breath because up here at night the sound of your own misfortune is better than silence. Hush now, he said, not so much to the stranger boy as to whatever was listening in the trees. "It don't hurt but the once. That's the one truth I can give you and still keep my soul straight." Stranger boy's phone lit up. He pushed his supper aside and answered it on the second ring. "I know, Mama," he was saying, talking away to a woman who had no notion of the type of man who stood next to her son. "I'm being careful, I swear, Mama. I'll be home Sunday. Love you too." At least he got to hear his mama's voice. His boy never did get that much. And then the name came to him one final time, and the Wolfman brought the knife up. The stranger boy turned his head toward the dark to listen, and the firelight found his face, and it was Harlan's, his boy. Every inch of him, down to the jaw, not yet finished coming in. The mountain had held that name back from him all this time, and it handed it back now, here, with the knife already up. "Harlan." The Wolfman stopped cold. The knife dropped to his side, his fingers came open without his say-so, and he went into the leaves. The boy scrambled to his feet and spun around, and there in the shaking firelight he got his first good look at the Wolfman of Helltown. Just an old man on his knees in the leaves, come all apart, both hands open on his sides, the knife on the ground beside him. The boy took one step back, then another. His voice came out small. "Mister, I ain't Harlan. I don't know who that is." He ran, headlamp swinging wild through the black, boots hammering the trail, and the Wolfman let him go. He let him go, and the mountain raged at him for it, the rage rising through the dirt, the name it had given him grinding around and around in his head. He stayed where he was and bore it, every bit of it, because for the first time in 3 long years, he had stopped the taking and sent a boy home to his mama on a Sunday. After a while, the stove sputtered and gave out, and the fire he had built up sank to one red coal and then to gray ash, and the cold came on close and patient, and the dark was complete. "Harlan," he said out loud one more time, before it could be stripped off him again, and that was enough. Then he got up with his dead boy's name still warm in his mouth. The mountain had gone quiet, the way it always did, patient as stone, and he knew that some night soon it would breathe him another name through the black timber. He pulled a Bible from his pack, opened it to the first blank page he could find, and began to write. Job 3:3. "Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, there is a man-child conceived. Up here the ground don't forget. Every boot that ever walked this ridge left something behind it couldn't name. The mountain keeps what the valley buries. The mountain keeps what the valley prays over. The mountain keeps what a mother cried for and a father couldn't find. Don't come up here looking for your dead. They ain't lost. They just belong to something older." The hum in the dirt went still, and the weight that had ridden him all those years released and gave him up to the valley, just as a flashlight cut blinding through the trees. "Sir, this is Sergeant Briggs with the Warren County Sheriff's Office. We've had report of an alleged assault with a deadly weapon up on the AT near the wayside. I'm going to need to see your hands. Drop whatever's in 'em." Behind the Curtain, composed and performed by Tim Parker. Sinister Minutes is produced by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. The musical score was composed and performed by Tim Parker. Sinister Minutes thanks you for listening, for liking what we do here, and for joining us as we continue to explore all the ways in which we are not okay. This audio program is copyright by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.